Hello and welcome. I am Maestra Teacher and this is my 5th grade Oasis channel. I've been a teacher for more than 20 years and I've taught gen ed and bilingual classes as well. In today's video, I will be sharing with you my experience using the curriculum of Amplify. I'm not here to celebrate or destroy the curriculum. I'm just here to let you know what I think is good, bad, and definitely challenging. I would like to also show you how I use it by using their website. The first thing I would suggest that you do is to start researching in Amplify's website, where they will give you their background. This is a curriculum that claims they are scientifically proven to teach reading, the science of reading, which they call, and to help all the students succeed. Another thing I can tell you for sure is that this curriculum is very, very challenging, especially if you have students who are reading below grade level or are non-readers at all. Amplify is also a bilingual curriculum. It has the Spanish components, which are the same one as the English ones, and the rigor is basically the same. The lessons in the Amplify curriculum for reading are designed to be taught in about 120 minutes per day. So that's another challenge, because if you don't have that amount of time of reading time, then it's going to be complicated. Another thing that you need to know is that you should not skip part of the lessons. The lessons are lengthy, but you're not supposed to skip any part of it, because if you do so later on, you're going to need whatever you skip in that lesson, so you're going to be lost. Amplify works in units, and for 4th and 5th grade, you have about 10 to 12 different units. Each unit will bring your teacher's guide, and each student will have books on their own. Sometimes students also receive more than one book, because they will have the workbook, but they will also have the anthology or book of readings. So imagine the amount of space you need to have in your classroom to put all this away. Now let's go ahead and dive into the lessons I'm going to be showing you online. Let's go ahead and dive into it. This is the Amplify application right here. We go through Clever at our district. When you access the screen for Amplify, the first thing you'll have is like a welcome and recommendations from them. So you will go to K5 in our case. And as soon as you get there, you get to choose the grade. We're going to choose between 4th and 5th, so you can see, but it's basically the same format. I'm going to show you first the 5th grade. Then it will tell you, you have an introductory video here about the science of reading. What is it that they base everything on? Then you will go where it says daily instruction. That's where your teacher's guide are located. You will have the English side. For 5th grade, you will have 10 units. And then it's the same for Spanish. You just click in Spanish. It says unidades, and you have 10 of them. It's the mirror of the English side. So you have both of them. Everything you have in English and Spanish, you have the units, you have all the other resources that they offer, such as the cursive book, anything that you will need for specific purposes is all in there. Then you go ahead and you can click in any of the units, but they're all the same. We're just going to do unit 1 so you can see. When you start with unit 1, you will first have your teacher's guide. You will have the same activity book as your students have, the printed version. And you also have a digital version that you can actually change. If you don't like some of the questions in the one, or you want to add something, you can do it there digitally. You also have other components depending on the different units. Some units bring like pictures that students have to look at, an anthology. You have exit tickets, but watch out, because their exit tickets are just basically one question at the end of each of the lessons. So this will be an exit ticket, which sometimes we do use. Sometimes I do use them, but sometimes this is just too short for me. Just one question at the end is not enough for me to know if a student knows it or not. I think it's not enough. But you can see that each of the lessons have a specific one, and the students can write it there. You also have support letters for parents. Every time you start a unit, you send a letter home. All the letters are there.
So basically, that's what you're going to see. You have different resources for different units. They're all not all of them are the same. Let's go to Unit 2 so you can see here the differences. This one also has the teacher's guide. This one has a reader. Basically, you have different stories. You can access them. So let's go ahead and click on one of the teacher's guides so you can see how it looks like. This is the English version for 5th grade. This is Unit 2. It's called the Renaissance, Art and Culture. So the whole unit will be based on that theme, the Renaissance. It will, at the beginning of the teacher guide, it will tell you the amount of lessons that you're going to have for this unit. And it will tell you exactly from those lessons how much time you're going to spend in each of the components of the language arts. For example, in the first lesson, you're going to spend 30 minutes basically doing these activities, and then the other 60 minutes are for reading. Remember that you need to have about an hour and 20 minutes for each of the lessons, and maybe even more than and as I was explaining also, not every day you're going to have the same activities, and not every day you're going to have the same pacing, and sometimes you will do reading first and then writing. Sometimes you will have language first and then writing, or you'll have writing first and then reading. They put it all mixed like that. This is another example, and so on and so forth. At the end of each of the units, you will have what is known as a unit assessment. However, not all units have a test. Some of the units will have maybe a project of students to do, and that will be their closing of the units. But in our district, for example, they will use the unit assessment as to collect data. And then you're able to see the unit assessment ahead of time. So it is very important that before you start a unit, they encourage you to read through the introduction so you familiarize yourself with what is this unit about. And they make you go through all the components so you as a teacher internalize this unit before you start teaching it. And of course, this is very time consuming and you have to plan ahead so you are very prepared for it. So it explains to you why it is happening, why is this unit about, why they chose it, what are the components, what are they going to be doing in the reading part, what are they going to be doing in the writing part. And then you start your lessons. As you can see, the first part of the lesson, it tells you all the ticks or the different standards that are covered in this specific lesson. And it also tells you what are the activity pages that the students are going to be using throughout this lesson. Then in every lesson, you will see how you are going to distribute your time for this class. You need to have 120. So this is basically how you are going to be distributing time. So make sure you try to follow these specific times. They are very time stamped in this Amplify curriculum. That's why it's so hard for many teachers to follow, because sometimes, you know, as a teacher, then when you're teaching something and your class is not getting it, you usually go back or reteach or take more time. You are not constrained by time, but in this curriculum you are. So you have to be careful with timing. It also tells you how you're going to be teaching it. Is this going to be a whole group thing? Or is it going to be a small group or individual? And most of the curriculum is designed for whole group instruction. They is very minimal what you would do in small groups. So you as a teacher have to not only give this 120-minute lesson, you also have to figure out a way to do your small groups as well, because they believe that first instruction is the best. So the more prepared you are as a teacher, the better you are to deliver. So as I just mentioned, this is how you would do it. You follow the timestamp and how you're going to do it. In this case, you have the reading part second, and then this is the take-home material or homework. Some of the lessons have homework, and some do not, so you decide if you want to send it home or not. Then throughout the lesson, you are going to see that it gives you different notes for you to build background knowledge. You have to, what you need to teach the students before you actually start reading. In this case, they need to learn about before Christ and after Christ time and things like that. They show you already what you have to prepare, what materials you need to have ready for your lesson so you can prepare them ahead of time. The lessons have vocabulary words, and it's a lot of them sometimes. So you have to pre-teach the vocabulary as well so the students are familiar with the words. Then it gives you the lesson, it gives you what you have to say, how are you going to teach it, and the amount of time you should take in each of the parts. It gives you checks for understanding, which is the kind of questions that you are going to be asking your students throughout the lessons. You know, as teachers, we always have to ask the students questions to see if they're learning and they're understanding. So they have many questions that you can ask. Sometimes I do, sometimes I create my own. And it tells you here another check for understanding, and students are going to this activity page. This is one thing I don't like about this curriculum. When it shows you here activity page 1.2, you don't see it here in your teacher's guide. You actually have to get out the teacher's guide to another part of the curriculum to find your this activity page. So I think it's time consuming as well. And then this is a reading part. In the teacher's guide, it shows you the same as the students have, so this is good. And then it shows you also here for ELL students, so you can support them depending on their level. And as you read with the students, or it tells you the students should be reading this on their own or with a partner or so on. So you follow what the teacher's guides say, and then you can be asking questions, or you can add questions or take away questions and so on. And remember, we're still only on lesson 1. The expectation is you teach all this lesson in a day. And as you can see, they are lengthy readings, very elevated with rigor. Some of these readings are not at our grade level at all. So if a student is a newcomer or a non-reader, this is going to be quite challenging for that student, of course. More checks for understanding and wrapping up the lessons. And of course, the homework that you take home, and that was 1 day of work. And then the same thing follows for the next day. So that's what the teacher's guides look like. Let's look at the students' activity books. The ones that we cannot see in the guide, but then you will have to get out the teacher's guide to come and see the page. So you make the decision if you're going to use that page or not. In this case, they had a map, the vocabulary here as well. They have grammar. They have this kind of activities for vocabulary, fill the blanks, and they have a glossary also. The students have practiced with that. So that was okay. Here comes the grammar. It's all mixed. Different lessons have different things related to grammar. In the Spanish, they have to do accents. It's a little bit different, as you can see. So each lesson has about 5 or 6 different workbook pages that belong to that lesson. 6 has 1, 2, 3 workbook pages, 4 workbook pages, 5 workbook pages for lesson 6. Goes for the Spanish side, it's exactly the same thing. If you are a bilingual teacher, you're teaching basically the same as the English side. At the beginning of the school year, every teacher received a pacing guide of what lessons you should be doing per day, and they're very strict on it. So if stated in the pacing guide that 5th grade on a specific week needs to be on lesson 3, and your principal goes in, they're going to check that you are doing that specific lesson. So that's why a lot of teachers complain, because if you don't have enough time to do lessons, they want you to go and speed up the pacing. Those are basically the components. If you're teaching another grade, the 4th grade is the same thing. 3rd, 4th, and 5th are basically the same kind of formats. You have the English side, you have the Spanish side, and you have the same thing.
Well, there you have it. That's my Amplify experience. Please like my videos, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next one. See you soon.